Good evening, everybody. We are back with After Actions Workshop. It's been a week since we've been back here. We're working. We are all over the country. I'm currently in San Diego, in beautiful San Diego, at a conference called the Peer Support. No, PSPSA. I can't remember what it stands for. It's Peer Support. No, what's it stand for, Sandra? You remember?
Oh, is it like Public Service Peer Support Association?
There you go. I think that's
There
what
we
it is.
go.
Great. And let me say this. I know it is PSPSA, came to this conference a couple years ago. I actually spoke at this conference. It was my first time hearing about it. It's been around for, I think, around 10 years or so, maybe a little longer than that. Great conference. If you haven't been, come check them out. They're around this time every year in October time in beautiful San Diego. And it's just all the peer support people, all the peer support information exhibitors. They are here. They're doing great work. Sandy, you are also here. Got to hug you and talk to you a little bit this morning. And you've been, just checking the whole thing out. While I've been working the table and checking it out, and working the table and checking it out. So, but how's the conference going, Sandy?
It's great. I've been coming to this conference when I worked in Orange County also every year. It's great for peer supporters or non-peer supporters. It's good for chiefs of police, just if you want to start a peer support program. But you're right. There's so many people here and to learn from and talk with. So yeah, it's great every year. It's wonderful.
Awesome. So our people, Chris Scallon is actually, I believe he's like driving home right now. And so he's, being real careful. He may try to jump on if he can get home in time, but no big deal. Chris, get home safe. Doug, our buddy Doug, him and Karen just got back home, I believe Monday. Karen ran the Marine Corps Marathon. She why we don't know. No, I'm not going to say we don't know.
So we don't know why she decided to do this.
It was to benefit Survive First, and everybody knows Survive First is a nonprofit that Doug founded. So she did. I want to believe maybe her last marathon. She gutted it out. And let me tell you, and she, people are probably going to know this, but she actually was working through a nagging injury. And she actually, and I guess most marathoners kind of 2 weeks leading up to the race, they kind of stop and just kind of let their bodies recover, waiting for the big race. So it kind of worked out that way for her. And she gutted it out. I mean, she finished the Marine Corps Marathon this past weekend. And of course, that comes at a huge cost to the body. Karen is, she's 4 years old. So, so yeah, huge cost to the body. So she's, still licking her wounds, and kind of recovering. And Doug it just got sick. I mean, he's just sick. So
watching her,
Yeah, just watching her, he got tired. The badass that Doug is in reference to doing as many marathons as he's run in his lifetime. He doesn't do them anymore, and now just watching somebody else do it just tires his ass out. He can't do it, so it is what it is, right? So so he's sick at home right now, so he won't be joining us. So it's myself and Sandy here, and it's kind of cool because this is one of those topics where we kind of, we were talking about this a little earlier before the show. It's just, I think everybody goes through this, right? I think we all do this within our careers. And I want to say, and we're talking about this conference that we're at. They have keynote speakers there, and one of the keynote speakers is my good friend Rich Creamer, and he said something that I'm going to add to. We have a kind of an outline we want to and make sure we cover certain things tonight. But he said something that I got to remember is that when we're talking about the mask that we wear, when we're talking about the mask that we wear, uh, that's not just from our career. That's through life. I mean, this is stuff that we develop and start wearing a mask uh, because of whatever can be going on at home before you even start this career of law enforcement. So I just thought that was really, when he said it today, I was like, you know what? You forget about the baggage, the mask that you wear before you even get here, before you
Yep.
even, raise the hand and swear to go ahead and, be a law enforcement officer. But yeah, let's get into it. The mask that we wear. Um, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about me. You know, I always, when I speak to this, when I do my presentations, I always wanted to be the guy that people could rely on. I wanted to be the guy that people would call upon when you got the tough shit going on. I want to be one of the people that you look to solve it, complete the mission, whatever the case may be. And I believe that in order for myself to be that person, I had to portray, right, this persona of just being the steady badass, you
All the time.
all the time,
All
all
the
the
time.
time. That doesn't stop, right? So, and I really bought into that. Really bought into it and I'm probably getting ahead a little bit, but to the extent that, you start doing it at home, right? You start, wearing that same mask. Of course, you got the one from home, but now I'm throwing the other mask on there, or making that mask thicker, however you want to word it, right? But I am, it's all kind of blending in. Those two masks are kind of blending in over my face, and you forget. Well, I did. You forget which one you have on. You forget to take one off. You forget to take any of them off. You forget to just let that. Does that make sense? Are you
Yeah.
digging what I'm saying there, Sandy?
Yeah, I think it's because, okay, so we were taught from a generation that remember the whole suck it up mentality, and that you always have a smiley face on, and no matter what's going on at home or whatever, like you got to carry through. Like you weren't, you were looked down upon for taking vacations or a day off, right? So it's like, oh no, if I'm having a bad day, I still got to go to work. If I'm sick, I still got to go to work. And then you do all your stuff at work, and then my mask personally was like, I couldn't take off the mask and basically dump on my family. Like,
Right.
here's the case I worked today. Here's the case I worked yesterday, because it was totally inappropriate. So I kept the mask on of smiley, cheery team mom, right? We've talked about the team mom.
Yeah.
And I tried to, but after a while, the mask started to crack.
Yeah. Yeah.
And spill out.
Right. Right. So let's back up a little bit, though, because I kind of want to go in order here a little bit.
Yeah.
While you got the mask on, right, and you're being that person, you're being that, the everything mom, the everything, investigator, detective, that the everything on both realms there, you know, how to, and let's just stay in the law enforcement side just because of the topic. And hey, before I go any further, please, anybody watching, do you have any comments, questions, throw them in there. We'll answer it live right here as we're doing our deal. So please feel free to chime in. We'll get with you and we'll talk about it. So what I was saying is, getting back to what I was saying is that when we had the mask on in law enforcement, how do we deal with things? How do we keep the mask on? What's some of the things that we do? And I'm reminded, and you'll know where I'm going here because you were in this world more than I was. I would talk to my sex crimes guys, my ICAC people, and man, they had a different sense of humor than even the rest of the agency.
Absolutely.
Because everybody talks about cops having a dark sense of humor. them fuckers were different.
Yeah.
So, and I'll let you take it from there, but
Yes.
you know where I'm going. You know,
I was fucking different. Right. Right. And I remember, you know, like early on in like 98 when I was like, oh, I want to work sex crimes. And the dudes were like, you're a chick. Like, why do you want to do that? Right. There's something wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with me, but it was looked at that way. But you're right. Yes, we definitely had a different mask because every day was traumatic. Right. And I'm not putting down any other units, but like working a fraud case and bank statements is different than looking at 6-month-olds,
Yes.
you know, getting abused and the audio and the video like every day in ICAC. So how do you survive without that dark humor? Yeah, you put it on. And so like, I'll give an example, you know, when I was working ICAC, you know, you're looking at kiddie porn all day long, right? And then sometimes you get adult porn mixed in there.
Yeah.
Right. And I remember one time there was this hot adult porn on my computer. So what do? I get all the guys on my team over. I'm like, check this one out. Okay. Is that dark?
Yeah.
But it was like, it was better than looking at my kiddie porn on the next page.
Right.
Like, that's how we deal with it. It's like you have to, and it wasn't like a sexual assault or anything. It was just normal adult porn, but it was better than looking at kiddie porn.
Right. And then what do we do? Like, you know, when we talk about the humor, like, you know, and this is just everybody across the board. But like I said, you guys, the ICAC people are just a little bit different. But across the board, like we use the, you know, we can take the most horrible of situations or incident that we just saw, and then we'll pick that humor out of it. You know, it's like the and I remember hearing this, and I didn't do this, but I remember hearing this about a homicide guy going to a scene and just we I'm sorry, I'm reading the comment real quick. And going to a scene and seeing some brains and made a joke about being hungry for hamburger or something like that. You know, and it's just we can do that, that gallows humor, that dark humor, because it's a way to cope, right? It's a way you're trying to laugh at just the most horrible of situations to kind of help cope with that, right? And we can be the most sarcastic assholes on the planet, can we not?
Yeah. I mean, I remember we would be doing search warrants once or twice a week, at least in ICAC. And we had a thing going that whoever found the sex box in the house, they got their breakfast for free after the search warrant. I mean, that's how we did it, right? And so everyone was like, you know, oh, I want the master bedroom because I want to find the sex box, right? You know, everyone's fighting for the room. But I mean, that's how you dealt with it. You know, you didn't want to find the room with printed out child porn. You wanted the sex box and, you know, who's got the biggest dildo. I mean, that's what it was. And that's how I mean, every day there was that dark humor. And it wasn't even in homicide, you know, like when, you know, you're doing an autopsy and then there's a chick on the table and you're making crude comments about her breasts. Right. I mean, it was, there's, when you're working those for bad people crimes, you're going to have that humor.
And these are the things that I don't think, not that I don't think, I know that your normal civilian does not understand. You know, they don't get, and you know this, and we all know this. Every supervisor now, every management person will tell you, hey, when you're on a scene, you know, and don't crack the jokes because now everybody's filming you now, right?
Yeah.
So, and the last thing you want to have happen is that you're on a scene and you crack that smile, because the interpretation, the perception is that you're making light or making fun of, and you're not. It's a coping deal that we're making a joke out of, you know, and not joke of the tragedy, but just a joke to kind of lighten the mood. And it's how we deal with some of those things. You remember kind of having that speech, you know, or receiving that speech? I've given it and had it given to me. Hey, don't go out there and crack no smiles. Don't be telling no jokes right now.
And it's hard.
Right? Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard because it's like, how do you like not smile or start, it's in your head, right? And then you've got, the news crews are there, and you're smiling, and it looks like you're smiling at a dead body. It's just, it doesn't look right. Or when even what kind of came up when you were talking was, like, we're talking about offending people, just in the community. But what if I come home and I'm married to someone that's not a first responder, and I'm cracking that joke at home, looking for relief, looking for support, but I'm offending my loved one.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's
And
tough.
it's hard to explain to people that don't get it, people that are not first responders, that this is just a healthy way. And let me say that it's a healthy way to kind of blow some of that steam off,
Right.
kind of get past, or deal with, cope with what we just saw,
Yeah.
or what we were just involved in, right? I say that all the time. And this is one of the things that we fall into. I never told my family any of the bad stuff. And if I did tell them about incident that was bad, I would pull out the funny or the joke of it, or anything that
Yeah.
may have been kind of humorous, twisted a little bit to make it humorous, so that'd be the only time I do it, right? But is there a point when we're doing it too much? It is when yeah, I'm asking, is there a point
Yeah.
when we're making too many jokes? Is there a point that while we're joking about it, we're not really dealing with it?
Yeah, I think you have to kind of keep it in check, because if you're constantly joking about your victims, right?
Right.
It can get to a point where you forget, like, what's my job?
Yeah.
What am I supposed to be doing here? And if you're joking about your victims all the time, you might be missing stuff, I
Right.
believe,
Right.
and or blowing stuff off,
Hmm.
and making it a big joke. And then you're dealing with the families. And I think, especially in homicide or in sex crimes, when you're dealing with families or parents or the victim's loved ones, and you've been joking so much, I
Hmm.
think they can tell. I think they can read it on you that you're not being genuine. So I think you really got to be careful.
Yeah, and that's the point I think we're trying to that want to bring out, is that we've got to be careful that we're not going to the extent that we're joking and not dealing with
Hmm.
what we just saw, not coping with it, right? So a joke to mask the pain, a joke to mask the effect it had on you, that's not the healthy side, right? We got to be careful that we're not going to the extent of just joking, and not really dealing with it. So using the joke to kind of get past it without really dealing with it, that's not the answer. So we gotta definitely be careful of that. And it's hard because it is one of the things that we do, so it can help. We just got to be careful that we're not using it in a way to distract or push away.
Yeah.
We want to use joking to kind of help deal with some of that pain, some of that, and I say pain, it's just a word that's in my head right now, but
Yeah. The emotional fallout.
emotional fallout, exactly. So
Yeah.
we got to be careful about that. So and so how do we do it? Like what's that look like? I mean, how do we make sure that we don't fall into that trap? And well, how do we start dealing with it, and letting the guard down, taking the mask off a little bit,
Hmm.
at the right time? I mean, what's that look like for you?
So for me, like, I remember in ICAC, we had a very, very small team. It was like 6 people,
Mhm.
HSI, FBI, and then myself, the local, and another local. And I remember sometimes when we had like really hard cases, like after a search warrant, we have our breakfast, we come back to the office, and we would kind of have a debrief. And of course, it was the ones that would lead it would be like myself or some others that were like a team mom, team dad kind of person. Like,
Right.
hey, let's do a check-in. And when you work in like working these kind of cases, you got to be a tight group, right? Because it is emotionally draining. You can't have people in there that are not like really in the game to get the work done. And like they're all A team play people. And so we would do debriefs, right? I think that's good to just do those check-ins with each other, where you can talk freely or as open as you feel like you can. And what's great with what how I experienced it was you end up getting closer as a team, right? And so we end up learning more about each other, learning about family. So it goes to a different level, not just talking about the case, but you start trusting each other more and being there for each other personally also. That's how I remember dealing with it. And then in homicide, when you have bad cases, there was not everybody I could go to on homicide and be like this was hard for me, you know. I remember one time I went on a suspicious death with like an 8-year-old boy. It was sad. And my partner and I both had young kids. And thank goodness I was like, this is really hard for me. Like we're driving to the scene. I'm like, oh, I'm dreading this, you know? And he was feeling the same way. So just being honest with each other.
Right. I absolutely agree with everything you just said. I think, let me ask you, well, let me tell you, I agree with everything you just said. I think we have to look out for one another and ask the question, and however you want to word this, how'd that make you feel? Right. And again, you word it your own way, but, you know, that was a horrible scene that, seeing that child, the gruesomeness of this homicide, the gruesomeness of this child sex case or whatever. How'd that make you feel? Or are you okay? And again, I'm making words up right
Yeah.
now to get the point right. Like we got to go a little bit deeper. But what does it look like uh, when somebody's been behind the mask for too long, like they've just, and we can both, I'm sure, we can put our finger a little bit at ourselves because we've both done it, but we also know people in our careers that we can point at and say, hey, that person's been behind the mask too long. How do you know that? What's that look like?
For me, they did engage in the debriefings. I
Yeah.
mean, they were there physically, but I don't think they were there mentally. They were shut down. They never talked about any of their feelings regarding their cases.
Okay.
And even though that we were all really close, like, so this is my partner that died by suicide. He never talked about his feelings like that, even though we were in a really safe place together. And I think he stuffed and stuffed and had undiagnosed depression, didn't go to therapy, didn't reach out. I think a lot of it was from his upbringing, to show weakness was not looked highly upon.
Right.
And he was the strong male figure in his family. And so that's what it looked like to me. I mean, that when you asked me that question, that I thought of him.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say this, um, know the people you work with. And I say that because you may have that person that is kind of a stone face, and that's normal for them, right? They may be the stone face, just not a very touchy feely or very giving of their emotions, and that's okay. So, because neither one of us is saying that. I've got to, every time you ask how I'm feeling, I need to do a 5 minute, you know, a dissertation about how, no, I'm not saying that, but know the people around you. So when you do have the discussions and you can recognize if they're at least having some normal emotions, reactions towards that is just something, that's a horrible scene because you may have, we had this one guy, Fred, he just nothing, he would just very stoic, very, just kind of there, right? But we go some places and he'd be like, oh shit, that meant a lot. Like he did that was a big deal.
That's a big statement.
Yeah. And that for us was like, I look back, I didn't know it then, but I look back at it, I'm like, okay, that was him showing his emotion.
Yeah.
And that was, I wish I'd have recognized it then, you know. But yeah, know the people around you and know, because now this other side of it, if Fred never said anything, if you got that person that's just, there's nothing, you can't point to anything that's moving the needle a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, be worried a little bit about that person, right?
Yeah.
You know the person, you know your partners, you know the people you work with, and you're seeing what you're seeing, and you're just not moving the needle. Maybe you're asking another time. Maybe you're, maybe it's time to be a little bit concerned and ask a little bit more questions, a little bit more probing questions. Are you okay? But yeah, can that happen? And we think that's a, I should say we think that's a product of just having that mask on for too long and not being able to kind of take it off, take it down just for a brief second. So, you know, because if the mask is up the whole time, can you deal with stuff? Can you cope with it? Can healing even start?
Yeah. I mean, I think like with my partner, there was red flags after the fact. He
Hmm.
had asked me about my husband and his siblings, how they dealt with their father's suicide. Like, are they productive adults? So looking back, I think he was thinking about his children because he
Right.
had already was thinking about doing this.
Hmm.
He had lost a bunch of weight. So I look back and I wish that I had gone to him individually, and we both had run like half marathons together. Now he was much faster than me, but the same race. And I just chalked it up that he was running hard. He was losing weight, but it wasn't. I wish I could have gone to him and alone. So if I was working with somebody that had that thick mask on, um, I think obviously you don't do it in front of the whole team. You take them aside and say, "Hey, I'm just checking in with you. How's
Right.
everything going?" And kind of do those open-ended questions.
Right.
But for myself, how do we take our mask off?
Hmm.
I mean, that's some deep reflection,
Yeah.
and courage.
Yeah. Yeah. Why is it so hard? Why is it so hard to take the mask off? Ooh, I hit you with a hard one. I saw you
Oh,
look there.
oh no,
I hit
I
you with
got
a
it.
hard one.
Boom. I'm
I
like,
would say,
oh my gosh.
let
Um,
me answer. Let me answer first. So, uh, and this is just, they want to show weakness. You know, uh, I didn't ever want to anyone to think that I couldn't handle the next assignment. And if by dropping the mask, I thought that could be the perception from others, right?
yep. And they
Um,
will never forget it.
and then never forget it, right? And that was at work and at home. That was both places, because and I'm going off a little bit here, but
No.
at home you become the, you're the cop, you're the stable person, you're the, your judgment is sound, when everybody kind of looks at, hey, this is the cop, person. So uh, if if I let the mask, if I took the mask off and became a little bit vulnerable, then I'd be weak at home too. I wouldn't be looked upon as that person. So that's my answer to that. Go ahead, ma'am.
No, absolutely. I mean, that's exactly how I feel because my entire career, all I wanted to do is work sex crime investigations, right? So
Mhm.
everything I did, every assignment was 110%.
Right.
And if in my mind, if I ever pulled that mask down and being vulnerable
Hmm.
and real and human, they would never want me up in that unit. Oh, she can't hang, oh, she's got kids, she can't do it, she'll never be on the call outs, she won't respond, she's weak. And I was so afraid. So I would kill myself to be perfect at work as much as I could. And then I would get home feeling guilty that I wasn't at home as much. So then I would kill myself at work at home to make up for myself not being there mentally. I was there physically, but not mentally.
So, is there a point where you're wearing the mask to be the beast cop and super, mom, wife, and knowing you're lying to yourself?
Oh, it was every day at a point, not my whole career.
Right, right.
Oh yeah, driving, that hour and a half home and reflecting quietly in the car, like I'm a step away from completely losing everything, just losing it. But back then, we didn't have places to go talk, right? It wasn't safe to say, I need to go see somebody. Like, you just didn't. You would go drink, you would go have affairs, you would just suck it up and have a shitty life. Right. I mean, that's how it was until it completely falls apart.
Right, right. And I call it the cycle, right? Like, because you have the mask on, you're doing everything to be just the best cop and out there. You're doing the very best. When you got the mask on, you're worried about taking it off because people may see, but you know that you're halfway living a lie. Like, you're hanging on by a thread, right? But the more you do, the more you have that mask on, and the more you're thinking you're hanging on by a thread, it just gets heavier and heavier. It's a kind of, and so that it's a vicious cycle that you can't get out. It feels you can't get out of, right?
It's your life.
And then you're worried about. Again, this is me. I'm worried about being perceived as weaker than, and not being the person that they can count on, and not living up to, expectations.
Yeah. I
Go
mean,
ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Like there wasn't many females in investigations or working those hard units. And I always would tell everyone, don't look at me as a female, just look at me as a partner, right? I was always saying that, like, I'm just your partner. But I knew in reality that most people couldn't do that. So in my mind, I was always going to be looked at as weaker than a man.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not a feminist. I don't play the chick card, like, as people call it. But I knew that I had to work so much harder. So, like, we learned today at, like, the conference about people pleasing. Right. So, like, I did everything to people please, to the point that I was doing things that were not beneficial to myself or my family. But it was like, I didn't even think about it. It was just like, no, I got to do this. I got to do this to be accepted. And then having the mask on, and then, like you said, it just snowballs.
Yeah, snowballs. And so I was going to ask you, what can organizations, what can the leaders do to make it a little bit easier, right? So, like, and that's a big deal, right? Because we just talked about, you don't want the perception that you're weaker than, and so that's a perception you're worried about your peers as well as your leaders. So what can they do to make that a little bit easier to pull the mask down? Yeah.
I think it starts at the top. If you're your chief or your sheriff, or whatever type of organization you're in, if they buy into a wellness program, it starts from the top down. Because if you don't have them believing in it, no one else is going to lead. But also there's more to it. They always say, like, the sergeant role is, like, the most important rank, right? And I never got that until, like, I was later in my career and then doing the job. Your first line of supervision is the sergeant, right? And if your sergeant is leading you to be open and honest and talking about taking the mask off and debriefing hard cases, you're training the young investigator, corporals, officers that it's safe and normal to do it. If you normalize it, then those young folk are going to grow up and do the same thing. And that's what I see in our generation now in organizations that have a good wellness program. Those investigators and deputies and officers now are doing a heck of a lot better than we all did because they've learned that.
Absolutely. I was going to say, Sandy, the culture, I think, is changing, right? So normalizing is a great word. And this is what I say, we have to go, shoot the gun and qualify a couple times a year. You got to go hit the bag with the aspartame a couple times a year. You got to, shoot the taser, we do all these things to make sure that we know how to fight and shoot and defend ourselves and make sure we're safe in the street. But we don't do the things to make sure we're dealing with the shit that we see on the street, right? So if we can make it a normal part of what we do yearly, biannually, whatever the case may be, if we can make it just normal to say, hey, we're going to debrief this, we're going to always talk about these things, and part of this. And I've got no problem with saying there's going to be two parts of it, right? One's going to be, hey, make sure you did it right, which we always do anyway. But the number two is going to be, how are you? How are you dealing with it? How that make you feel? If we make that part of what we do normal, that's just what we do. This is how it's done, no matter what. That's how leaders, that's how organizations can make it a little bit easier for guys to open up, right? Because we still, and the problem is that we still have agencies that will mix those two up, right? So, you got to make a safe space to be able to have that conversation, right? It can't be a mixed space where, oh, he just said this. Now I got to run the internal affairs about it. And talk about, and don't get me wrong. I mean, policy is policy, and I get that. So you have that conversation over here. Now we're just talking about how it made you feel.
Exactly. And that's why debriefings are so important on critical incidents. And it was interesting when we started debriefings, and I think this was probably nationwide. Debriefings were like done for officer-involved shootings or really mass casualty incidents. Now we're starting to do debriefs on like baby deaths, right? Still critical, but we weren't doing that before. It was just OISs. And so now you can do debriefs on anything, You can do a debrief when one of your partners gets arrested and you're like, oh my gosh, and you bring your team together. Let's get together and talk about how this is making us feel. And you don't have to force people to talk. Just be there. I just want people to be there because typically if you can get them there, then they'll open up. And it's almost like in California, we have workers' comp, like every state, but workers' comp was always just for like physical issues, right? Well, finally, California a few years ago has approved that workers' comp can be also, you can put them for workers' comp for mental illnesses or whichever. So I think that's normalized it more that like, oh, I could do that. Before, you would never put in that you needed help because then you have the fit for duty. I'm going to lose my job. Like no one ever put in that kind of stuff.
Right. No, absolutely. And you made me think of two things. Number one is that there's studies out there that say that the normal citizen will see 5 traumatic incidents in their lifetime. Yeah. And we know that there's first responders right now that's last week.
Yeah. Right. and like people, I remember like my normal friends in investigations that work normal sex crimes would be like, oh, I could never work ICAC. And these were people that I thought were like kind of fucked up like me. I'm like, oh, you can't do that? And they're like, oh God, no. And so it's not normal to look at kitty porn every day, right? It's not normal to see dead bodies all the time or go to autopsies. It's not normal. So like it's not good. So if you're just trying to act like a normal person and not take care of the fallout, what do you expect is going to happen?
Right, right. And I also wanted to say, in reference to how does an organization, uh, how can the organization or leaders make it a little easier? How about leading by example?
Yep,
Right.
I was going to say
Um,
that. Yep.
yeah, I always remember uh, during the Pulse nightclub incident. Um, there were during the debrief, there were leaders in the room that were the first to speak, and because of their reputation, because of their leadership, that opened the door to let everybody else know it was okay. It
Yeah.
was okay. And that's the kind of leadership that can make it easier on everybody else. So they're not going to fire that guy.
No.
That guy has got rank. He has got a reputation that precedes him. And for him to raise his hand and say, this is what's going on in my head, and I got to deal with this, it that can make it easier for the rank and file
Yep. It
to
speaks
do
volumes because we've
that.
all worked for sergeants that we didn't trust,
Yeah.
right? Or didn't lead by example, right? So they wouldn't be the people we would open up to. But if you've chosen to be a sergeant or higher and a leader, don't just do it for the money. You have to take on the responsibility that you need to lead, and part of that is the emotional wellness of your team. It's not just the stats, it's not just the good press releases and the good arrests. You've got to take care of your team because those are your future sergeants, lieutenants, captains. And who do you want to lead to the department when you leave? I mean, right?
Right. And so, how do we, what would you say to anybody? How do you help somebody to speak up, to pull the mask down and be vulnerable a little bit? How would you go about, helping somebody to help somebody?
Um, the biggest thing is I saw this in the beginning of peer support that we would just put any peer supporter with somebody that we think needed help, but they didn't know each other, or they were like 3 ranks apart from each other. Like, why would this person even talk to this person? And we had to learn by failure, right? So like, if we feel that somebody's got this mask, then as a peer support coordinator, I'd be like, okay, who is best, like knows this person. I put out text messages on Signal, like I need somebody that knows this person. Because if anyone's going to take or slowly take their mask off, it's going to be with somebody that they trust. It may be a friend.
Yes.
Then the question comes up, well, do you really need peer support? They can just go talk to their friend. Well, sometimes they don't want to talk to their friend because they're their friend, right? They know too much, where it's confidential with peer support, right?
Mhm.
So I would be trying to pick the right person that knows the person, but and that's trained in that. And it's really just being open and honest with that person, asking open-ended questions,
Yeah.
not judgmental.
Mhm. I would add, and I like all that what you just said. I would add, trying to, if you can, if possible. This is if possible, uh, get somebody with some like experience.
Yep.
If we're talking about an ICAT case, maybe
Mm-hmm.
we talk to somebody that's been involved in that type of cases, right? If we're talking about a shooting, an officer-involved shooting, maybe we're getting somebody that's been involved in an officer-involved shooting. Hopefully, your peer support unit has got that type of range,
Mm-hmm.
and that you've got somebody you can pull on for those. And sometimes it's not possible. I get it. I'm not
Yeah.
trying. It's not
Yeah.
possible. But if you can, that can help because it's really, I think it's really cool to have somebody say, "Hey, I've been there,"
Yep.
and when I saw something like that myself, and I went home, this is what I felt. This is what you may feel. These are some of the things that you may go through. This is what I went through. Not saying you're going to have the same thing, but just want to throw it out there. So if it happens, you'll know like you're not alone, right?
Right.
So because somebody else has been through this, and you know, I'm right here, right?
Yeah.
So
Right.
I can do something like this. So that's one of the things I want to throw out there, as well as everything you just said. And we've got to remember that. We've got to remember that doing all the stuff that we, you know, the shootings and the cases we work in, the things that we see, all that in of itself is pretty courageous, because we walk to it, we face it, we try to get justice, we try to do what we can. But man, we can't forget that how much courage it takes to raise your hand and say, man, that bothered me.
Yeah. And I totally agree. Like in both of the peer support groups that I've done or do now, we have a
Mhm.
list of peer supporters, and we
Mhm.
ask them what topics would you like to peer support on. So
Right,
there's people that have been in officer involved shootings that
right.
want to do it, and we don't assume just because you've been in OISs you actually want to peer support. Because I've had people that like, no, I don't want to do that. You know,
Right.
people that have been engaged in infidelity that want to support infidelity or alcoholism or addiction or whatever.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
you're totally right on that. I mean, it's really helpful to have a list like that.
Right.
Yeah, for sure, for
It,
sure.
it just helps, you know. I remember, and more especially a few critical incidents I've been involved in. It was really cool to talk to somebody that's done
Yeah,
what I've done, or has been through it, and just kind of sit back and listen to that, and kind of it just put me at ease a little bit. So really cool if we can do that. So let me ask you this. I think we talked about this a little bit, but what at what point did I start taking my mask off? What point you started taking your mask off? And I'll tell you, uh, it wasn't until something really traumatic happened at home. Uh, so you know, everything's kind of building up, you know, and uh, I finally got to the point where I was just done with this life. Um, you know, and I started putting my plan together on how I was going to get things done, and you know, and get myself killed. And basically, um, didn't work out the way I wanted it to. Uh, and then I had just a falling out with the family, uh, that had just a breakdown happen. You know, so my point is that I waited till the wheels fell off. You know, and then I don't want to say I took the mask off. I think the mask broke, like I dropped it. You know, I
no,
don't know if that's the right way to put it.
same here.
Yeah, I
Yeah, it
waited.
was a forced pull off for me.
Right. So that's kind of how mine happened. You know, I wish I
Yep.
could say something, you know, a little bit more brilliant. You
Like
know,
I was courageous and I
I
take
had
off.
a epiphany, and the courageous part for me was, okay, I finally, you know, I had my breakdown. I need to go get some help, and I did follow through with that. So you know, I realized I needed some help, so I did follow through with that. So that took a lot for me to do, to actually pick up the phone and start that process. Uh, so that's me. You go ahead.
Yeah, and I don't want you to downplay that we both of us had to have the forced pull off,
Mhm.
because we still had a decision to make,
Yeah.
right? We
Mhm.
could have continued spiraling after the mask was yanked off our faces, but we chose differently, you
Right.
know. And so we were both still courageous to do that. So I don't want people to think like, oh, because I was found out, I'm a complete failure and I can never rebuild or whatever. Like my mask was pulled off, and that's when I recoined myself and really looked at like who's Sandy. Like let's
Right.
get back to my foundation and what I wanted to do in my life, and who I wanted to represent. So I think that even if you're forced to pull it off, you still have so many amazing choices to make
Yeah.
to to make your life better and rebuild. I don't want people to think like, oh, I'm a failure. Screw it. Yeah, it's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to take a lot of time, and it's not always going to be an up. It's going to, mine was like this. I
Yeah.
had some good gains, and then I would fail, and then gains. And I think we're still doing that because we're
Yeah.
not perfect, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the small thing you tell somebody right now? Hey, and to start just feeling again, right? Like to start, to start feeling again, to just leave the mask off, and start being real. Like what's the one thing that they could do, small thing right now to kind of start going down that path?
Just I think like I said, just maybe even just writing it down. Um, you know, what did I want to do in this career?
Hmm.
Um, like looking back when we were that young little buck and all the
Yeah.
things we wanted to do and achieve, all those positives, right? And
Hmm.
reminding ourselves that that's still there. We can still be that person,
Hmm.
and going back to just foundational things, just
Hmm.
living without the mask on. And that
Yeah.
doesn't mean you have to go around work telling everybody like, oh, I did this and I screwed up this and I screwed up that. Not everyone's for that, and that's fine.
Right.
But just being honest with yourself and your loved ones. you
Right.
know I screwed up, or I
Hmm.
need to do better with this, and have some type of plan. Reach out to someone that you trust, that can help you with that plan. Um, I think just starting anywhere,
Right.
anywhere.
Right. Yeah. I agree. I think reconnection, and what I mean by that is, get. I think for me, everything got to be kind of robotic. I was kind of going through the motions
Mhm.
of everything, relationships, friendships, work. I was thriving at work because I was like really focused on that, but everything else was kind of robotic. And one of the things that Richie said today was so, when we've talked about this, it's funny when he said it. I was at all my kids' stuff,
Yeah.
but I wasn't there
Mhm. Yeah.
physically. My body was there,
Yeah.
because it was one of the obligations of fatherhood, right? So I was there, but I wouldn't. I was a shell of a man for my son,
I
So
agree completely. When he said that today, I was like, oh, I was hockey manager. I
yeah,
was in the school every Friday pulling staples off the ceiling. I mean, I did all of that. But every time I was home, I was on the phone. People
right.
were calling me for a call out, or when I was an investigative sergeant, my phone was going off constantly.
Mhm.
I don't think I've asked my young adult kids, how do they feel about like how I did as a mom? And they're like, oh, you were at everything. And I'm like, yeah. In my head, I'm like, I was there, but they don't realize that I wasn't there.
Wasn't there, right,
And
right,
now I'm trying to rebuild that, right?
right.
Like with my
Yeah.
daughter, I'm spending time with her every weekend. I never did that.
Right, right, and quality time, right? Because
Yeah,
that's what we're talking about. So quality
yeah,
time. Because yeah, I was there every, a lot of weekends. I was there for a lot of the stuff that I thought I was supposed to be at. I was
yeah,
there, again, physically. So
yeah,
reconnection, and I just bring it up as one of the examples, but this goes towards every aspect of my life. Reconnecting with people is one of that, truly reconnecting with them. And again, not that you got to go spill your guts, but
mm-mm,
start from point A again with them
yeah,
in reference to, hey, this is my friend, and I'm going to talk to them.
yeah,
You know, just from today on forward, I'm going to talk, and you know who your people are. You know which conversations you're going to have with that one, and what conversations you're going to have with this one, because you're not going to dump and do everything on one person, right? So,
right.
but just really truly reconnect to those true friends that you had, because and family that you have, because I promise you, all they want's the best for you.
Absolutely.
And they will absolutely do anything they can to help you if you will help them to help you.
Yeah.
So you got to be that person. So all that being said, and we're talking about the mask, and we're talking about the humor and laughing about and everything, and we've taken the mask off now, and we're trying to kind of get back to our foundation, and be who we're supposed to be. Can we come back to being to laughing at that shit? Can we go back to
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Talk to me.
Yeah. I mean, shit. Like I don't have the mask on anymore. I haven't had a mask on for years, and I still have that dark humor. There's nothing wrong with it, because that's what we do. And but again, because we have the mask off now, we know when it might be going too far, and we can keep ourselves in check. But yeah, you got to have humor. If we don't have humor in this job, it's going to eat you alive.
It will
Right?
eat you up. Yes, ma'am. It will eat you up. I say yes to yes. You can go back to having the humor, but it's got to in moderation, right?
Yeah.
You've got to keep it in check, and you've got to make those self checks, right? You're checking in your buddies, right? So, there's nothing wrong with it. I encourage the humor. It's part of what we do and how we deal with it. Just be careful that you're not masking it. That you're not using it to kind of deflect and not deal with
that stuff the feeling.
Right.
My dad has taught me as a young child, like, you have a balloon, and if you keep stuffing it, it's going to blow up, and it's going to be worse than if you had just dealt with it, right? So
Absolutely.
Don't make that balloon pop.
So I think we're coming up on time right now. So I think I'll give you the last word real quick. I'm just going to say that remember that even though we put the uniform on and we're super cops, and then we want to be super mom and super dad, and this is from our boss Marky, you're still only human.
Yeah,
you're still only human.
Yeah, we are, and we have to remember. I mean, it's hard because society expects us to be robots.
Right.
Shoot them in the leg or whatever, right? But we're not. And we have to remember we're not, and we're human, and we have feelings just like anybody else. And this job that we do is a job, right? And we have to remember, do not let the job become everything, because when it does, you're lost. Yeah.
Absolutely. And with that, thank you, Sandy, for being on with us. Yeah, we did another show. Thank you so much for being on. Doug, I hope you feel better. Chris, get home safe. And as always, number one is, if you want to hear about any topic for a future show, please email us, get on the horn, let us know what you want to hear about. We will get on here and talk about it. There's nothing we won't talk about, so just throw it to us. And if you or anybody is struggling and needs some help, our information will be in the credits. Reach out to us. This is the After Action Workshop signing off. Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm always jamming to.
I know. How did you think it went? Okay?
Huh?
Did it go